This one.
Higher for you too.
Oh, shit. So annoying.
This.
I wonder if they must make tripods.
Test 1, 2.
Open. 3, 2, 1. Stand by.
Hello, everyone. I'm Hank Greenberg, the State Director for AARP in Maryland, and I want to welcome you all to the AARP Maryland and MarylandReporter.com 6th Congressional District Primary Debate. I'd like to thank the MarylandReporter.com for partnering with us. We're very happy to work with MarylandReporter.com to offer this opportunity to the voters in the 6th Congressional District of Maryland. We hope that today's debate will give you an opportunity to take a closer look at these candidates and hear directly from them about issues that matter to you. I also want to thank Montgomery College for hosting us today. And with that, I'll turn it over to Len Lazarick, the editor and publisher of the Maryland Reporter and our moderator for today's debates.
Good day. As Hank said, I'm Len Lazarick, editor and publisher of MarylandReporter.com. We're a 2-year-old news website about state government and politics. This is a bit nostalgic for me. The first congressional race I ever covered was in the 6th Congressional District back in 1976. The primary was Goodloe Byron versus Dan Ripley, who some of you may know. Thanks to AARP for co-sponsoring this debate. Thanks to Montgomery College for letting us have Loeb Hall here on the Germantown campus. Thanks to the provost who came out today. Montgomery College Television are taping the debate, which will run.
Sorry. Stop. You're not getting the audio. We apologize once again. Stand by for opening.
Hi, I'm Hank Greenberg, the State Director for AARP in Maryland. And I want to welcome you all, those in the audience and our candidates today, to the AARP Maryland, MarylandReporter.com 6th Congressional District primary debates. I'd like to thank MarylandReporter.com for partnering with us. We are happy to work with MarylandReporter.com to offer this opportunity to the voters in the 6th Congressional District of Maryland. We hope today's debate will give you an opportunity to take a closer look at these candidates and hear directly from them about the issues that matter to you. I also want to thank Montgomery College for hosting us today, and with that, I'll turn it over to Len Lazarick, the editor and publisher of the MarylandReporter.com and our moderator for today's debates. Thank you all.
Good day. As Hank said, I'm Len Lazarick, editor and publisher of MarylandReporter.com. We're a 2-year-old news website about state government and politics. This is a bit of nostalgia for me. My first congressional campaign that I ever covered was in the 6th Congressional District in 1976. It was a very hot primary between incumbent Goodloe Byron and Dan Ripley, who some of you may know. I want to thank AARP for co-sponsoring this with us and making it possible, and particularly Montgomery College for making the Globe Hall here on the Germantown campus available to us. The Montgomery College television folks are taping this debate, which will run 12 times on their cable channel beginning Monday night, and we hope on other cable channels as well. The debate will also be available on YouTube, on the college cable channel, and on the website of both AARP Maryland and MarylandReporter.com. We have a lot of candidates today, and here's how the debate's going to run. We want to cover as many topics as possible of importance to people here. I would like to remind people there is no flash photography. You can take pictures without flash. You can video by whatever means, as long as you're sitting in your seat. Please silent your cell phones. If your cell phone is in a bag, remember that it's in a bag and to turn it off, so that in the middle of the debate the cell phone is not going off. The candidates will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves and tell us why they are the best candidate to represent the district. Then we will go into a series of questions. The candidates will have 1.5 minutes to answer these questions, which is not a lot of time. We have a timer sitting in the front row who will give them a 15-second warning. We're going to start with Delegate Kathy Afzali, and then we will follow alphabetically. The first question will be directed to Congressman Roscoe Bartlett. The next question will go to the next candidate in alphabetical order. Toward the end of the debate, using the same format, I'll be asking questions that have been submitted by members of the audience. Please fill out the cards that are available and pass them to the end of the row. We have some screeners who are not screening for topics necessarily, but just to make sure that the questions have general relevance, and I will be asking those questions. We'll have time for about 3 or 4 questions at the end. Please ask questions that are of general interest to the public. There will be no closing statements unless the candidates want to tack something on to the answer to their last question. Any rebuttal will be done in terms using up their time in the next question. There will be no immediate rebuttal. For the sake of people who might be formulating some questions, here are the topics that we'll be discussing today. The candidates have not seen the questions in advance, but given that this is an AARP-sponsored debate, pretty easy to predict some of them. Retirement savings, Social Security, Medicare. I'll be asking about Afghanistan and Iran, energy and gas prices, immigrations, and then the questions from the audience. So the Republican candidates here on the stage are going from here. I was about to say my right and your left, but I couldn't figure that out on the go. Delegate Kathy Afzali, United States Representative Roscoe Bartlett, State Senator David Brinkley, Robert Koblenz, Robin Ficker, Peter James, Joe Christohorsky, and Brandon Ripien. And so we'll start out with the 2-minute statement with Delegate Kathy Afzali.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and I'm so thrilled to be here and actually excited that you took some time out of your Sunday to look into this very important job that you have to do on April 3rd, and that is to vote for the person you think is the best capable to represent you in the United States Congress as a Republican representative. I am a businesswoman, a Maryland state delegate, and as Mr. Lazarick had said, and I'm also a mom. And as a mom of 2 teenage daughters, I am truly afraid for their future. Each of my daughters, through no fault of their own, now owes nearly $50,000 as part of their share of our national debt. This cannot stand. I'm someone who gets things done. I'm not a passenger, I'm a driver. I am someone who wants to accomplish something in Washington. So here's Kathy's to-do list. Lower the debt ceiling. Pass a law that requires Congress to follow all the same laws that the populace has to follow. Repeal Obamacare. Cut these onerous regulations that keep our businesses from competing globally. Repeal and fair the tax code. The tax code is very complicated. It's complicated for businesses and it's complicated for families. And on top of that, energy. We need to look for and accomplish energy independence in the next decade. It is possible. We have natural sources of oil and gas that we can tap into in an environmentally friendly way. And it's very important that we do this for national security. For national security, we want to make certain that we are independent of the Middle East. So anyway, I'm Kathy Afzali. My website is kathyforcongress.com, and I look forward to speaking more about how I feel about issues. Thank you.
Congressman Bartlett.
I am Roscoe Bartlett. For nearly 20 years now, I've had the great honor of representing and serving the constituents of the 6th District. During all of my tenure in Congress, I contributed from my congressional salary to scholarships in our schools. I think I've contributed $282,000 to the 9 schools in our district. I'm losing 2 of those schools, and I noted this because I want to thank the college for hosting us. I really want to thank AARP and Maryland Reporter for arranging for this opportunity to get before the voters of the 6th District. Since I'm losing 2 schools in my present district, that scholarship support will move to schools in Montgomery County, and this is, of course, one of those schools. Considering the accusations that I'm a liberal and recent mailers that say I'm a liberal, I thought it might be well to note my most recent endorsements. They're by the National Rifle Association, NRA, by Maryland Right to Life, by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, by the Right to Work Committee, and I have the same scores in the American Conservative Union that Michelle Bachmann has. The bills that come before Congress are nearly huge bills, hundreds, sometimes thousands of pages. It's rare that we have a single issue bill that we can vote on. In these big bills, there are mixtures of good things and bad things. And every time I vote no on a bill, I'm unhappy that there are frequently some good things in there I would like to vote it yes on. True, it is also true that the reverse is true. So I voted for a lot of bad things and a lot of good things because they were keeping other company. If my opponents want to get a big list, please come to my office. I'll give you a big list of all the things I regretfully had to vote against and all the things regretfully that I had to vote for in these big bills. Thank you.
Senator Brinkley?
Good afternoon. This campaign is a job interview. So I'd like to tell you that my public service began as a volunteer firefighter and an EMT. Twice I was elected to the House of Delegates, and I'm currently serving my third term in the state Senate. For my leadership on conservative and fiscal issues, my colleagues elected me to serve as their minority leader. And today I serve as the chairman of the Frederick County delegation. I have one of the Senate's highest pro-jobs rating. And as references, I'm endorsed by a majority of the Republican state elected officials in the district and have been endorsed by Senator Gene Rosser, Republican Central Committee Chair Mark Unkefer, and Gaithersburg City Councilman Henry Marafa, the only Republican elected official in Montgomery County. In my full-time job, I serve as a financial planner. But this election isn't about me, it's a referendum on the economy. So to paraphrase Ronald Reagan, are you better off? Are we better off? And is America better off today than we were 20 years ago because of something Roscoe Bartlett did in Congress? If not, then I ask you for your vote. Like many of you, I'm part of the 91% who disapprove of Congress, and not just the Democrats. It's incumbents who caused our fiscal crisis. I've supported Dr. Bartlett for 20 years, and I might have again if things were different. If things were better, or if Congress was listening. But Washington's inability to pay for its promises has only gotten worse, and during his time in office, our national debt has more than tripled to over $15 trillion. So it's time to stop digging the hole deeper. Again, I'm David Brinkley, and I would appreciate your vote on Tuesday, April 3rd. Help send a new generation of proven leadership, a pro-jobs record, and fiscal discipline to Washington. Thank you very much.
Mr. Koblenz?
Everybody hear me okay? Well, I'd first like to begin by thanking the Maryland Reporter, AARP, and of course Montgomery College for sponsoring and putting on this event today. I know it's a lot of work and time and energy, and we all appreciate it. But also, thank you all for coming today. It's very important that everyone stays engaged. If you think Martin O'Malley's second term is bad, wait until Barack Obama has his second term. There's going to be no checks and balances. That's why we need conservative, principled leadership in the House of Representatives. As I mentioned, my name is Robert Koblenz. I live in Washington County, Williamsport. I was born and raised in Frederick County. I live in the district. I believe that's very important. I believe that's a liability in the general election. I think the Democrats are going to use that as a tool and a leverage to try to communicate to the independents and advocate for their vote. I have 120 seconds to introduce myself, and within that time, the federal government's going to borrow $4 million on your behalf. I'm running because these issues aren't new. Spending, deficit, illegal immigration, it's not new. We need change, we need reform, we need new, bold, fresh ideas. I work full-time. I'm a project manager, senior systems analyst. I'm accountable for other people's money. If I mismanage my project's money the way that Congress has mismanaged ours, I'd be fired. I believe in term limits. I'm not running to be popular. I'll serve no more than 3 House terms. I don't want to serve as U.S. Senator or Governor or any other office. I'm just running to advocate for the taxpayer because I think we always get the short hand of the stick and we're constantly overlooked. My name is Robert Koblenz, and you can visit my website, standwithrobert.com. Thank you.
Mr. Ficker?
Thank you. I'm Robin Ficker, born and lived over 60 years in Montgomery County. I had the question on the ballot in 2008 to limit your property taxes. It passed despite the opposition of every elected official in Montgomery County and the Washington Post. Of course, they're all Democrats. Here's what the National Taxpayers Union said at their annual convention. Your victory is a national record to pass a taxpayer protection measure at the local level against such difficult odds. This fall, I'm going to have a running mate. It's a question on the ballot to limit increases in your energy tax to the rate of inflation. The Democrats in this county said they would sunset it before the election, and of course, after the election, they chose not to sunset it. I've been leading the fight against the gas tax. You've heard my ads, gotten my emails, and my phone calls against this commuter gas tax that would have doubled Maryland's gas tax as opposed to the Virginia tax, driving our jobs to Virginia. I'm running against 3 Frederick County legislators, all of whom believe that Montgomery County should have an absentee congressman. And I've been criticized in other debates for saying I think Montgomery County, which has 50% of the voters, should have a Montgomery County congressman. The Democrats manipulated this seat. They moved 1 million Marylanders into new congressional districts to try to trick you into thinking we should have a Democratic congressman. Miss Absally can't even vote in this district as I did this morning. Mr. Brinkley can't even vote in this district as I did this morning. We need a Montgomery County congressman for this seat.
Mr. James.
Yes, my name is Peter James. I live over in Milestone. I'm a dad, a husband. I've started a robotic open source farm up there to try to solve some of our problems in energy and money. If you all haven't gotten your just money, make sure you pick some up before you leave. But, you know, it's said that if you keep repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, that's a sign of insanity. Some of my ideas will look a little insane at first, but we basically have a two paradigm. It's a flat paradigm, and neither one of them is working. They're both unsustainable. I want you all to go and look at Money is Dead video. There's one on my website, or you can Google it, Money is Dead too. It explains how the money system works. And the focus of my campaign is to get you guys to understand what money is. Because your typical understanding, a lot of this, go pay down the debt. But if we pay down the debt, the money system will collapse. And that's what happened. We didn't have a rush of illegal aliens or a rush of taxes or regulations that caused the crash in late 2008, 2009. We had basically the banks stopped lending, and that crashed the money supply. So it's really very simple once you understand it. And we need to, and Andrew Jackson, who was a brute of a man, by the way, but he is the only president that had no public debt. He paid off the entire public debt. That's the #1 issue. And so you have to, rather than keep trying things that we know don't work, why not go back through history and find out when there's been times of prosperity and when actually there was no debt, like King Henry I of England and other times throughout history, and see exactly how that money system works and then implement that. So I think I've run my course. I look forward to giving you my health care plan. Thank you.
I presume at some point we're going to find out about the pillows. But now we're going to go to Mr. Christopher.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank everyone for coming. Thank you to the AARP and the Maryland Reporter for hosting this important event. My name is Joe Christoforski. It's the long name. It's the one you're never going to forget. I guarantee it. I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud of the principles upon which our country was founded, but I'm not proud of our government. Congress today consistently advocates its responsibilities under the Constitution. The President tries to find ways to circumvent the Constitution, and then we have a Department of Justice that picks and chooses what laws it wants to enforce, ignoring the laws that Congress passes. In 2008 and in 2006, I addressed a group and I said that terrorism is a threat to national security, but it's not the only threat we face. I said the biggest threat we're going to face in the future is an economic one. The debt at that time was $9.5 trillion, jobs were disappearing at an alarming rate, unemployment was on the rise, and our energy policy was failing. Gas prices were starting to go up. I also said that there's a possibility that Standard & Poor's and Moody's would downgrade the national debt. 2012, what's changed? We're now facing almost a $16 trillion debt. Standard & Poor's has downgraded our debt rating, and Congress has established a committee in order to investigate the problem. The fifth or sixth committee to investigate the problem, and nothing's been solved. We need leaders in Congress. We need people in Congress who are going to be able to say, this is where we are, this is where we need to be, and this is how we're going to get there. We don't need cheerleaders, we don't need educators in Congress. We need leaders. I've got 35 years experience in healthcare, education, information technology, banking, finance, and emergency management. I've bought companies public, I've bought companies private, I've started companies. One of the companies I bought public and then private again is now part of one of the largest information providers of healthcare information on the internet, Healthy on WebMD, a $250 million company. I'm Joe Kristoforski, I'm running for Congress, jtkforcongress.com. I ask for your support. Thank you.
Mr. Ripien.
Thank you. My name is Brandon Ripien. I too am proud to be an American, and I'm also proud to be a Republican. In the sense of disclosure here, I do want to say that my grandparents, my mother, are both members of AARP. I think it's a very important organization, and I look forward to talking about many of these topics today. And thank you to Montgomery College for hosting this event. There are two things that separate me from my colleagues up here. Number one, I do live in the district. It is an important issue. It is important to be able to vote for yourself. It is important to be part of the community that you're going to serve. The second issue is I'm the only candidate with personal experience operating a $100 million company. I am a businessman. I am not a career politician from Annapolis or from DC. I'm from the real world. I understand the real world economy. I know for a fact how hard it is out there for folks to earn a living, and I have real world solutions. My platform is based on fiscal responsibility, free markets, individual liberty, and limited government. And again, I look forward to a lively debate on the issues today. Thank you.
Thank you all. We will start the questions with Congressman Bartlett. Candidates will have about 90 seconds. They will get a 15-second warning from the timer. So the first question has to do with retirement savings. These questions, by the way, were developed by AARP and by myself, the Maryland Reporter. Today, nearly half of all retirees rely on Social Security as their primary source of income. What policies would you promote to help people save for retirement? So this is in addition to Social Security, personal savings for retirement.
Well, clearly, if you have more discretionary money after you've paid all of your bills, you'll be able to commit more of that to savings. So we have to reduce taxes so that you're paying less taxes. We have to create an environment where businesses can flourish so that there will be jobs and there will be salaries that you can then invest in your retirement. Social Security, of course, is a very important retirement source for a number of people. It is in trouble, as everybody knows. When it started, there were 40 people working for every one on Social Security. Now there are 3. Shortly, there will be only 2. Rick Perry described it as a giant Ponzi scheme. That's hardly true, because the plan now really counts on people entering the workforce to pay for those who are now in retirement. There is no money in the Social Security Trust Fund. There are a lot of surpluses. All of that money has been traded for non-negotiable U.S. securities and spent. Lyndon Johnson moved Social Security on budget so that he could pretend that the monies we took from Social Security offset the deficit. Of course, it does not. Americans need an environment in which there are more opportunities for jobs, so there'll be more income, so you'll have more to say.
Senator Brinkley?
Thank you. As I said in my opening statement, I do financial planning. To that end, I do retirement planning for people. I also do estate planning for people. I've been doing that for over 30 years. And my partner is here in Gaithersburg. We have an office in Gaithersburg. And so our experience professionally is in dealing with these exact issues that people are trying to deal with. One solid example of what people could do, we could raise the threshold for which people could contribute to their IRAs. We certainly allow different type of products that people can put their monies into with the government's blessing, to accumulate other type of savings. The Roth IRA, where someone can put money in and then theoretically get their money back out tax-free. But again, that rule is only as good as the government allows it to take place. Social Security was established as a basic safety net. But, my generation is more concerned at this point in time that it's not going to be there for our benefit. My mom, when she was contemplating taking Social Security, she said, I don't know that I really need to. I said, Mom, please do. That's our money that we're contributing. It's not money that's been banked by you or by Dad. And so there's some realities that we have to do to ensure a certain social safety net, but also ensure that people can bank up the monies for their retirement, because the biggest concern is they don't want to be a burden to their children. And they want to be able to pass some of those assets on. I think it's important that families and individuals have that type of choice and those type of opportunities. Thank you.
Mr. Koblenz?
Thank you. I think I agree with the Congressman. We do need to allow folks to have more money in their pocket to contribute to private accounts. A flat or a fair tax would start with that, a 12 or 15% flat tax. Allow people to have more money in their pocket. But in today's world, we have to remember that FICA is not a tax. It's a contribution. It's your money, and you put it aside to receive your benefits when you pay out. Social Security is going to run out in the year 2037. So when folks my age and slightly older and those entering the workforce aren't going to have Social Security as a safety net for retirement. I believe that we should allow folks to at least contribute a certain percentage, or whatever percentage they'd like, into a private account, because that will ensure that when they retire, they'll get the money and that government doesn't misuse and mismanage those funds. Today, a worker earning $50,000 in income will receive a check for only 32% of their pre-retirement income. It's going to take about 20 years for someone to break even if they retire at 67. So you're going to be 87 years old plus before you get the money back that you've contributed to Social Security. We need reform. Thank you.
Mr. Ficker?
Well, I appreciate the fact that Social Security has been an ironclad promise made by the government to citizens who become needy in their later years. On the other hand, I think we need to give young people, like my children, the opportunity to invest the money as they would like, not in just interest-bearing accounts. For instance, if 10 years ago you had invested $1,000 in Apple, today you'd have $30,000. If you had invested it at the rate Social Security allows, you wouldn't even have $2,000. So there's a remarkable difference if you can find the right investments. And I understand there are unscrupulous security dealers that would try to get unsuspecting folks to contribute to accounts which do not have reliable investments. But we need to give people the opportunity at a young age to invest their money. Social Security is very important. I've completed 25,000 cases in Maryland courts, many people who are on Social Security, and they have a difficult time paying any of their bills, let alone the bills that they couldn't pay if they weren't getting Social Security. Let's support Social Security. My parents enjoyed it, and I will too one day.
If you elect me your congressman, I won't lie to you, and I won't steal from you. All these other candidates are either outright lying or they're just ignorant of the facts. FICA is a tax. Go to court. You'll find out it's a tax. They told you it was a contribution, but you've been lied to. They've been telling you that they've been lying to you for 40 years now. And we sit back and say, well, geez, if maybe I don't do anything, I'll get lucky enough to get some of it out. But right now, the solution that everybody's talking about seems to be the favorite. Let the young people keep paying, and they don't get anything. And then the voters, 60% of everyone over 60 years old votes, 10% of everybody under 25 votes. So no one who's going to win that battle. In 35, they passed the Social Security Act. 37, it was going to the Supreme Court. It was going to be ruled unconstitutional. FDR threatened to pack the court. The court magically changed their mind and said the General Welfare Clause means Congress can do anything it damn well pleases. To me, that's a lie. And that's the basis of all our misery. We've got a Ponzi scheme. It's a true Ponzi scheme. And until we face up it, it's like the elephant in the room. We've got to correct it, and I'll do that. Thank you.
Mr. Christoforski.
Social Security is important to retirees, all members of AARP, and also those in the 55 and over age group. One of the things we have to do is change the tax law. We really have to go to a flat tax. I agree with a flat tax, and reduce taxes on retirees' benefits. One of the other things we should do is take a look at plans that will open up more retirement savings accounts, similar to IRAs, HEOCs, and Roth IRAs. Increase the percentage of money that we could contribute to our retirement accounts, whether they be 401ks or some other account, to a larger percentage of your base salary. As far as preserving Social Security or shoring up Social Security, we combine increases in Social Security benefits to consumer price indexes rather than wages, and base benefits on means testing. All right, means testing of people above a certain salary level. Look at those levels and base Social Security benefits based on those means testings. Eliminate the ability of workers to receive benefits prior to retirement age, except under really extreme circumstances, and increase the early retirement age to 64 and the retirement age to 68. We do those things and we'll have more funds in Social Security. Now, for anybody under 50 and under, we have to move to a consumer-based, a consumer-driven system that they can then take control of their own retirement funds and invest those funds the way they want to invest the funds. Thank you.
Mr. Ripien.
Thank you. What we're talking about here are entitlements. If we want to strengthen Social Security, we have to reform it. Right now, entitlements make up over 40% of our budget. We cannot balance the budget. We won't be able to reduce our debt unless we have real entitlement reform. And as a conservative, I do believe that we have to have entitlement reform. For our oldest working Americans, our retirees, I propose no change. For our individuals that are around perhaps the age 55, they are going to have to work longer. And I know that it might not be politically correct or easy to talk about, but they are going to have to work longer if we're going to maintain our programs. It takes leadership to say these things because they are unpopular sometimes. And for our youngest working Americans, I do believe that they should have the choice of whether or not to participate in these programs. We have an all-volunteer military in this country, but yet we have forced participation and conscription into these social welfare programs. And for our youngest working Americans, I do believe they should have the choice. The economy is made up of two parts, spending and consumption, and savings and investment. And the reason why this recession has been so deep and so painful is because so much of the economy is based on spending and consumption. We need to put incentives in place to promote savings and investment so individuals can invest in themselves, invest in their future, and take care of themselves in the long run. Thank you.
Delegate Epstein.
Wow, it's a long time when you're the last one. Well, you've heard a lot of things that I agree with in terms of private investment accounts, We, of course, need to keep our promises to our retirees. My mother and father are both on Social Security, so certainly we don't want to eliminate Social Security, but we do need to start transitioning it into a separate investment accounts for the younger generation. But I will say something that kind of speaks beyond that, and that is my frustration. This is, I think, what, our 9th debate? Is it? I think our 9th or 8th debate. And I think something struck me while I was listening to everyone speak, that I feel like I'm almost living in an alternate universe. This auditorium is largely empty. The issues that we are speaking to affect each and every life in this nation. And the person you elect is going to go to Congress and can send your sons and daughters and your grandchildren to war. And this auditorium is nearly empty. I'm sitting here with a man who's wearing pillows. I'm sitting here with people who have run grassroots campaigns and lost. A congressman who for 20 years has promised and spoken about these issues but has done nothing to repair it. A state senator who claims to be a minority leader who had to step down in disgrace 4 years ago. One point he forgot to mention. And I am fooled to believe, and I do dare to believe, that this nation is worth saving. We cannot take another 4 years of Barack Obama or any years of the current congressman. You need someone who is a driver and not a passenger. Thank you.
Well, we had another question about Social Security, but talking about retirement savings got into that. We didn't talk, I think I mentioned rebuttal earlier. If you would like to rebut a statement that has been made, you can use some of your time for the next question. So we're going to move on to Medicare, and Senator Brinkley will be the first respondent on this one. How will you put Medicare on stronger financial ground and protect today's seniors and future retirees from the burden of rising health costs? Senator Brinkley.
Thank you. Well, the first thing that we have to do is we have to scrap Obamacare. I'm firmly of the opinion that that system alone is not something that we can continue to maintain, particularly when we learn that the latest costs on it are now double what's going to be affecting all of us. And when we look at Medicare and Medicaid, in my experience on the Budget and Tax Committee, you know, we certainly are trying to recognize the fact that that is contributing significantly to our health care costs. We have a couple things that need to be addressed by. We have to ensure portability. Certainly Medicaid, Medicare are portable once you qualify in those categories. But that's not the case with the private sector insurance. The other aspect that we have is we have litigation concern. We have so much medicine that's being practiced merely for defensive medicine. And that's not something that we certainly can be proud of. But we also have to keep in mind one other gem that we have. There's no other healthcare system in the world where people, particularly those of means in other countries, come to obtain treatment. We have been victims of our own success. I don't know that victimology is necessarily it. But at the same time, I'm a cancer survivor from many years ago. I'm a beneficiary of everything that we have going on. And to help subscribe and maintain our Medicare Medicaid system, I do firmly believe in state block grants, so that the states themselves can determine what their populations necessarily need. I do not believe that one size fits all determined by Washington. Thank you very much.
Mr. Copeland.
To save Medicare, I think that we need to work in a private, free market industry environment. I think the federal government can help work with the states, but I think if we get private industry in there, it will hold our elected officials accountable and making sure that every taxpayer dollar is accounted for and utilized as most efficiently as possible. Medicare is known to become insolvent by the year 2020. That's right around the corner. Obamacare rips $500 billion from Medicare. Senator Brinkley mentioned we need to repeal Obamacare, or at least defund it as much as possible. Nearly 1/4 of all seniors rely on Medicare Advantage. Okay? but nearly half of those that rely on that program are going to lose their coverage. Obamacare is unconstitutional, it's unsustainable, it's unworkable, and it's unprecedented in the way that's the federal mandate and the overreaching federal powers consuming our nation. It's literally ripping the Constitution away from everyone, and it's the crowbar to mandate the car you drive, light bulb you use, or the food you eat. It's time that American people stand up, stand on principle. Thank you.
Mr. Ficker?
We need to cut the cost of Medicare. There's no question about it, but the president seems to be shying away from doing that. Indeed, all politicians in an election year seem to be shying away from that unless they have a really safe seat and no opponent. It's true that the cost of health care has risen at least 28% overall since Mr. Obama took office, and he was the one touting Obamacare as the solution to this cost increase problem. We're going to have to look at it in committee, on the floor, and propose small cuts along the way because we can't keep going the way where we're going. Kathy says that she's the one that needs to be in Congress to make us safe. I'm the only one up here that has an honorable discharge from the U.S. Army. I'm the only one up here that had a father-in-law who was a lieutenant general in charge of the U.S. Army. It's easy to talk tough, but you have to temper that talk with the knowledge that war is hell. I've been to the funeral of a classmate at West Point who was a Rhodes Scholar, another who was an Olympic athlete, another who was on my mile relay team. You have to understand that talking tough is not the answer. You also have to be wise. And Iran is a big problem. We're going to be talking about it later.
Mr. James?
Great, my turn. I had a brainstorm last night. I figured rather than fight this constitutionality thing, I'd double down with the healthcare thing. And the big thing is cost. So anybody over 65 is going to be mandated to wear these or receive a $1,000 fine. And most of the injuries occur in the home, so everybody, we're going to come through your homes and make sure you got your helmet on. And actually this has the extra benefit of keeping the cell phone from giving you brain cancer. So we're going to make sure that the government takes care of everyone. But being real, here's a list in my brochure of all the enumerated powers that we have in the Constitution. Maryland, I believe, is the only state that has a Medicare waiver. They could probably tell you. This is something that it should be done at the state level. And they're much more prudent. But the biggest thing, if you go back and read Exodus about Joseph and how the Pharaoh got all those slaves, basically there was two famines. The first famine that they came and gave the Pharaoh all their cattle. The second famine they came and they said, please make us your slaves. And here's all our land. Well, what we have is we have a bunch of these Wall Street and foreign bankers that have collapsed this money system time and time again, creating these economic famines. And instead of, God made the earth prosperous. You plant one kernel of corn and you get 1,000 come up. And it's only these economic famines that have caused us to look to the government for all our necessities. Thank you.
Mr. Christoforski, and I do want to remind you that the question was about Medicare, but I'm glad we got the pillows answered.
I'm glad you reminded me because I lost track of it as it came down this way. Repealing Obamacare will go a long way to helping preserve Medicare, but we have to look beyond that. Healthcare accounts for 1/6 of our economy, and the largest portion of payments of healthcare go to our seniors and our retirees. I agree with David that Medicare should be restructured from an open-end program to a block grant program and let the states distribute it. Medicare should also be shifted to a means-based system for high-income retirees. We could increase deductibles for services and premiums for Part B to increase coverage of the program's costs and make it more consumer involvement in the whole Medicare process. Part D, which is the prescription drug program, needs total reworking. To say that the Healthcare Finance Administration cannot negotiate for drugs is ludicrous. The largest block of prescription drugs are going to be going to our aging population, and they cannot negotiate for those drug prices. So most of the time you're paying manufacturers' suggested retail prices for your prescription drugs. Change Medicare to a consumer-driven system will save an estimated $200 billion per year based on current healthcare estimates. And shift to a consumer-based system for people that are over the age of 50, or under the age of 50, more involvement in their healthcare and saving for future healthcare benefits, and more involvement there. Thank you.
Mr. Ripien.
Thank you. If we want to reduce healthcare costs, we have to reduce transaction costs. As a businessman, I understand this. Of course, we have to repeal Obamacare. We need tort reform. We have to get away from practicing defensive medicine. The key is to introduce free market principles into our healthcare system. Free market principles, competition does two things. It ensures that a product or service is offered to the consumer at the lowest possible price and at the highest level of quality. That's how you get transaction costs down, and with lower transaction costs, you have lower healthcare costs. That's the solution. Thank you.
Delegate Sally.
Thank you. I too am for the repeal of Obamacare. I'm actually surprised that the AARP has endorsed Obamacare when the members of AARP are the ones who have the most to lose by Obamacare. It mostly compromises those who are 65 and older. So it's a terrible program. I hope that the next president, God willing it's a Republican, is able to repeal Obamacare, and I hope that if I'm in the Congress, if I'm your Congresswoman, that I will be able to help the next president do that. But in terms of health care, what are the things we need to do? First of all, we want to keep it privately run. Government does not do this well. I had an opportunity this past summer to spend some time up in Canada and witness firsthand how bad their healthcare system is. You can't get a doctor in Canada unless you go to the emergency room. If you've got strep throat, you have to go to the emergency room because you cannot get a doctor unless you've had that doctor for the last 20 years. Government-run healthcare is never the solution. Privately run healthcare works. We need to address tort reform. That's a huge issue. It's been a huge issue here in Maryland, directly affecting whether or not we can get doctors to come here. It's also an issue nationwide. We also have to promote cross-state line bidding for healthcare. And the Obamacare will cost us in the trillions of dollars. I'm for repealing Obamacare. Thank you.
Congressman.
You know, when you mention that the federal government can block grants back to the states, what you're really saying is that the federal government never should have taken that money in the first place. And since we've taken it, I want to give it back this year, but next year I'd certainly like to not collect those taxes. Because if we give it back, we support a huge bureaucracy in Washington that soaks up a lot of that money before we can give it back to the states. We just don't need to be involved at all. Block grants are the answer. In Congress, in the House, we're dismantling Obamacare one brick at a time. We've now passed 16 bills to do that. The last one was just before I left, where we repealed IPAP and did some meaningful reforms to tort reform. Reserve Medicare, we clearly got to reduce the cost. We've got to reduce the cost of health care across the board. And you cannot reduce the cost of health care by refusing to pay the cost of health care, which is what the federal government does. They're proposing to take a number of billions of dollars out of Medicare for the future. It's already in trouble. It's going to be in trouble even further if you do that. Two quick things that we can do to reduce the cost of health care. Maybe 25% of the cost of health care is an administrative cost. And we can reduce that. If you own the policy yourself, then you have portability, and not very many people have a pre-existing condition at 18 years of age. You're going to now, if it's a health savings company account, you're not going to ask questions. How much does it cost? I really need that. If it's yours, it rolls over, you're going to practice preventive medicine. We can do really meaningful tort reform. I have our opportunity to address that in a subsequent question. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to switch here a little bit, starting with Mr. Koblenz. question about jobs and the economy. Millions of Americans have lost their jobs. How would you help Americans, especially those age 50 and over, get back to work and improve the economy for all Americans?
First thing we have to do is reduce regulation. Of the 227,000 jobs that were created in February, 31,000 were in manufacturing. How many jobs are created in construction? Zero. Zero jobs in construction. Government needs to be a partner and not an adversary. We need to reduce regulation and create a climate where businesses, entrepreneurs can feel comfortable and confident investing in new and existing businesses. This will allow